I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll take a look. I'm just curious.
Yeah,
It's just
I would. That I think you could test that out pretty quickly, right?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. I've had this issue for years, but I've just never stopped to think of like, hey, I got to mute. There we go. I got to learn how to, programmatically, fix that. Normally, I'm just like, I got to remember to not uppercase when I type.
You do a lot of yelling?
Only at the dogs. Let's say. I was gonna say my wife, but I don't want to get in trouble. I've heard my dad yell like twice in my life. Like we are very mild. I yell out of frustration, but not out of usually anger. I mean, I don't get mad, thankfully. Oh, let me stop the look that I'm in the sun.
Yeah, it's better.
Am I less glowing?
Yeah, much better. Much better.
We are live on YouTube. I see it.
Right, I'm still glowing on YouTube.
Yeah, it will take 30 or 45 seconds before it.
Yeah. Now, Hellbent, just until maybe we get someone to show up here, but did you try that Styles stuff? Just because, like I said, I knew you wouldn't.
No, I didn't. I didn't try. Okay. I didn't try. If like you have to download a DLL for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and share for when people that do watch this. So the other day, Dimitri demonstrated this thing, and I borrowed from it, and I went and got the files. Actually, Styles. Actually, it's funny. I should have it in here, but that's the URL where you can get this DLL and files that I've created. But it will go.
I personally don't. I don't usually download things. I don't usually download anything.
Yeah, which definitely can be a deal killer. I just thought for some people, if you're using GUIs and your clients or whoever wants something fancier, this could be a quick. I hate this one.
I honestly wish I had found this years ago, because this would be probably the path. I would be on this kind of path instead of the path I'm on. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, you've done amazing stuff. Maybe in a couple minutes, if you're interested, John, he can show you his theme button creator thing that we demonstrated. I don't know if you saw that video that we walked through, but it was amazing.
Yeah. There's one thing we talked about that earlier, Joe, but for L, maybe if whenever you see something about that, how we could style the pop-up menu that are created with AutoHotkey to change the background. We can change the background color, but we cannot change the text of the menu items, the labels in the menu. And because of that, you cannot do a menu that would be white text on black background to make it more suitable for those who use the dark mode. And it's a limitation of AutoHotkey at this time, but maybe there's a trick somewhere.
Hold on. Are you able to programmatically change the text color?
No, not for menus. No, you can change the color background.
Okay.
So you can make the background black, but the text will stay black. So that's not very convenient. And also the column of the icons on the left side of your menu, of the pop-up menu, they are not changed. If you change the background, it will only change the background of the text. So it's something like has been done, but incompletely by Microsoft when they did that, because they did half of the things like
it's things like that actually started me on developing my own ways of doing those things. So if as soon as I came into that limitation where I can't change the text color on the menu, I wouldn't use a menu. I'd create my own, because it's just a rectangle with some text on it.
Yeah, but it's a big job to create menus, submenus, having all these menus being displayed correctly with various resolution screen size. And yeah, it's something I'm not ready to jump in.
Hey, John, this is a great segue into, because one thing we were going to do is demonstrate some of the stuff in QAP, right? New things. But why don't we, before you demonstrate the new stuff, at least for Hellbent, demonstrate QAP a little?
Yeah.
because the stuff you're talking about. And incidentally, I asked Maestri if he knew of a way, and he said he had no idea how to do what that one question you had.
It's really not there. So it prevents me from doing a menu that would be dark mode, and more users are converting to dark mode display because it's much easier since Windows 10 to do that. So Elben, Hel, have you ever seen Quick Access pop up, or is it the first time?
Yeah, I've seen a few videos with it in it. I have my own tool that I use that's similar to it, but yours is way more involved, much more features in it. I have a little thing on the side of my screen that pops out, and then it's got any web page that I want or program I want. I just press a button and it launches it.
Okay.
Any script, whatever.
I'm just trying to find share screen for my show all windows. So there are too many windows open. This one here. Okay. So at first it was a tool just to pop up folders. So the name was Folders Pop-up at the beginning. And if you want to see the history, I can I'll just take the opportunity to show you on Wikipedia the new page that has been put on Wikipedia about.
You need a hot string for that, man.
Yeah. I'm not there often. It's new for me to have to go to this page. And
why don't you have that in your Quick Access pop-up?
Yeah, but this is my demo environment, so I don't have everything there. That's no, I should have put that. Oh, I had a long night yesterday night, and I have to use the English keyboard on this demo environment. So okay, so I'll do it differently. I'll go to my own website. And here I put a link to that page. I did, yeah.
Only when we do stuff live is,
Yeah. So let's forget it. I'll show you it later. So okay. A Quick Access pop-up was first for folders, but receiving suggestions from users, I added features, and then it became a tool to launch application, documents, web links, text snippets, a lot of things like that. So I renamed the software Quick Access Pop-up when I did a major upgrade of the application. So it's what we have now. So when you add an item, you have all these types that you can add. So it can be folders, special folders, Windows applications coming from Windows Store, text snippet. QAP features is a list of features that are, for example, dynamic menus that you can put. So it will be a menu here with all the path or links that you have in your clipboard, the current application running, the most frequent files. So all these are dynamic menus. It can also be commands to manage window, for example, close all windows. So a lot of features.
The dynamic menus, they do what?
They will add, let's say that I can show them that are built in the default menu here. So in the works, you have here recent folders. So these are the folders that you opened recently.
Okay, and if you close that and then open up a folder and then open that again, it'll say the most recent one you just did again?
Yeah.
Okay,
it's updating following what you use in Quick Access Pop-up and what you use in Windows. So it's looking at the recent items folder that Windows maintains. And it will also monitor this folder to see what you use, and then in the database, keep track of all what you're doing to show you also what are your frequent folders and frequent files. These menus here in this demo environment are not complete because it's just recently started, but you will see normally the 10 most frequently used folders or files within the next month or 3 months. So you decide in the options how long you want to cover when we look for frequent files. And this is the current window. So it's a kind of alternative to doing Alt-Tab to see all the windows that are open in your environment. So these are dynamic menus. And there's a lot of other things, like one of these that we were talking about is the always on top feature. So I'll go in alphabetical. I think it's
what is the always on top feature for?
I'll show you. It's to, I'll make it at the top here. So it will take a window and make it always on top. So even if you open something else, this window will stay on top. So let me just, even if I activate this window, this one is on top.
You're doing that as setting it as its owner?
No, it's just a feature that you can enable with on a window to say that this window has the property to be always on top. So regardless what I open,
your quick access pop-up doesn't have that.
It's done by quick access pop-up by calling a Windows feature.
No. I know all about the always on top, but like your quick access, it doesn't have always on top enabled. Right?
Not by default.
Okay. I thought you were saying. But
you can make any window always on top. So if
I
need this window,
I'll show you after you're done this. I'll show you my little thing I have.
Okay. And if I use this feature again on the same window, it will turn off the always on top property. There's also an always on top property here for the customized window of quick access pop-up. If you want to have this window
always. Can I back you up a second? When you went to switch it to always on top and not always on top, what did you do? You just call the context menu?
No, it's a quick access pop-up menu here.
Okay.
And it can be used on any window.
But you also could have applied that with a hotkey, right?
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
So that's
how are you calling it up? Like, are you just right clicking, or are you?
No, I am mid. Okay, so I stopped my demonstration of quick access pop-up maybe too early. So here you build a menu, and when you save it, your menu becomes available using. Yeah,
it's actually easier for me to ask you questions as you go, so that way I get a better understanding of it.
Okay, but just to answer your last question, is you press the middle mouse button to open this menu.
Okay.
You can configure that to be any other key that you would prefer, or it can be Windows W that will do the same. So if this window here is active, I press Windows W and select always on top here, it will turn this window property to be always on top. And if I do the same, Windows W always on top, it will turn off this.
That is super handy if anyone's ever used a calculator.
Yeah.
The Microsoft calculator.
Yeah,
it's one of the two.
And Hellbent, one of the things I really like about QAP is it's one of my first go-to things is that I can do a lot of stuff that AutoHotkey does without actually learning AutoHotkey, right? It's got built-in things that make it easy to click a button and have it do something like this for me, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of ways to add items to your menu. If you are in a folder, let's say I'll go to this folder here. I can open the menu and select add active folder or web page. So it will detect what is the path and the name of the current window or the current web page and add it to your menu. You could add multiple items all at once by going add multiple. And you can add multiple items from your current window. So from what is already currently open on your computer or various other sources like recent files, folders, frequent, QAP features, special folders. There are 50 some special folders in Windows. So some of them are by default in your menu when you first launch Quick Access Pop-up, but you could add font, for example. I'll add it in my special folders submenu here and save it. And here I have font that I just added here to this menu. This is the one that is created by default with the most frequently used special folders, recycle bin, downloads, things like that. Mm-hmm. But there are 50 some that you can select from and add them to your menu. So there's a lot of features that are available to make it work the way you like, and some users will use it more for snippets. Joe is a big user of snippets. Other will use it mainly for folders. There's our user that more power user that will use it to automate tasks and series of tasks because you can create groups. when you create a group, and that's something we will take a look at today, you can have a sequence of items that will be open. So you can have batch files, folders, things that will be open all at once. So it can be used when you need to work on several folders at the same time and having a given Excel file to be open. So you can have 4 items being open in one command. And that's one way to use it. And the other way that is new now is that you can also use it one after the other. So to have some various actions being taken, especially by doing a batch file, for example. So there are users who are system administrator that has a lot of repetitive tasks that involve a lot of steps and need to use system variables. And you can also create your own variables inside Quick Access Pop-up. So it gives quite a lot of tools, especially for power users. It's still easy to use for not power user, but
so you said you can create your own variable. So you're talking about like I can write plain text and then interpret that text as an expression in your code. Okay.
Yeah, for example, here there's a variable called OneDrive. It's been detected by Quick Access Pop-up when it was first launched, and instead of typing this path in your favorites path, you can type this and it will be translated to and the advantage of that is especially for users who will use shared menus, because you can have menus that will be shared among different users that can share the settings file for this shared menu on a cloud drive. And for example, if it contains a path to your Dropbox folders, not every users have the Dropbox folder at the same location. So you can have a variable that will say, this is Dropbox. And for one user, it will be translated to C/Dropbox. And for the other one, it will be E/something/Dropbox. And the shared menu will work for all users then.
So to dumb it down, it would be like as if I want to use the variable screen width.
Yeah.
A_screen width, right? Yeah.
Or system variables like WinDir or things like that. So it's an addition that you can also use system variables in your path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I can do an example here, folder. So I have to find in this keyboard, where are, I'll just return, give me a second. And let's say just put this here. This already somewhere else, but just use it here. So this here will open. Oh, I made a typo somewhere. Here. Oh. Okay, so this folder was removed or renamed because there's a 2i here. I don't know why. So anyway, as you say, Joe, when we do live things, the errors occurs.
Yeah, we should offer that as a service. Hey, you wanna test out your code and get it to break? Come on a live.
Yeah, that's here. Yeah. There was 2 I's here. Don't know why, because it was supposedly done automatically. So let's try it again. Now it works. So of course I have nothing here in this demo environment but if I add subfolders, I could put subfolders here, but the root will always be the same regardless where this drive here. So I could move this drive somewhere else on my system, or in a shared menu, someone else could have the same root being anywhere, and the shared menu will work for all of them.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, you guys decide. Jean, do you want to demonstrate some of the new stuff coming out, or do we want to
Yeah.
look at Hellbent's thing real either way?
Well, if you look at mine, it'll only take 2 minutes. So
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
All right. So mine is very basic, but I mean, for me, it's I can have a hammer, or I can have a scalpel, or a machete, or a scalpel, and I usually just so this just sits at the side of my screen. I can lock it so that way it doesn't do anything, and then I can unlock it, and then it's just got a couple of tabs that I can click on, and it's got whatever I want. So if I want to have a stopwatch, or if I want to set a window always on top, I can do that. And it's just got a bunch of different tabs that when I launch them. And if I want to add a new program, I just go to a button that hasn't been assigned, click on it, and then I can just give it a name, get the path. So let's say if I want to put this script in it, I can just go here, select what I want, and there. Write some notes, update, and now when I hit that, which one was it? Was it test?
I thought it was block.
Oh, block. Okay, so now that script's writing, and that's just a little thing I made the other day to, I think, check to highlight a area of a color. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so that's how the script works.
Yeah. Can you come back to the one always on top just to see you did drag and drop to enable the feature? Or?
No, it's so this is attached to see how I just attached that script? Well, I have a script that has that code. So if I run this, if I come in here, I should be able to find where it is. It's just a little script. Hold on, the little recording thing's getting in my way. Yeah, right here. Let me see. This right here. So this is just a script I have somewhere, and in this thing.
Okay, it asks you to select the window you want to make always on top.
Yeah. And I accidentally made this always on top, so I gotta now come over here. So now I just select the window I want, press Control, and then
yeah. Great.
Yes.
And I don't think you mentioned this, Hellbent, but maybe you did. The thing I really love about some of the stuff Hellbent's doing is those buttons, everything, it's just GDI drawing them.
No, actually, this is before my.
Okay.
Yeah, these are all progress bars.
Okay, sorry.
Everything here is all progress bars.
Have you done menus with GDI?
I don't really like menus, so I haven't. But I've done I can show you something in a second. Or do you want to finish your thing? Do you want to finish your thing?
So what we wanted to do is to demonstrate the changes in the next release that will be launched next week of Quick Access Pop-Up. Not all of the changes, but some of them regarding live folders and menu. Where's my mouse? Share screen. So there's changes in live folders. So here we have a live folder. So the way we create a live folder in Quick Access Pop-Up, I'll show it here. I'll remove these things that were already shown. So when you create a folder favorite, if you do not enable the live folder options here, what you will have is simply an entry for this folder, and you can click on it and it will open your folder. But instead of making it a simple menu item, it can become a sub-menu with all the content, the current content of this folder. So I'll make it a sample example first with one level only, save it. And the path that is the folder in question is QAP demo here. So if I open my live folder demo, let me just change something I forgot to remove. Okay. So we have here all the subfolders of this folder. So if I go in the folder itself, here, you see all the content, folders, and files that are in this subfolder. And this will appear here with the files, the folders, and the files in this menu. So there are options that will allow you to control what you want to have in your live folder.
The term live folder is lost on me.
Is what?
The term live folder is lost on me. What is that?
It means that this submenu will contain the current files and folder in your, so it's live because it's updated and always contain what is currently in your folders.
Maybe dynamic is a better way to say it.
Yeah, but dynamic was used for something else in my
Gotcha.
thing, so I use that. Yeah, naming things is not always easy,
No.
we can have different IDs on that. So here you will control first that it will become a live folder. You can say that you want to have more than one sublevel. So here, and I'll show it now with 2 sublevels. So you can go down in the second sublevel. You could say 3, 4. You could put a large number of subfolders. You just have to take care not to make it too large because the submenu cannot contain thousands and thousands of items. But you can go to 3 or 4 sublevels if you wish. And you can decide how you sort them. One of the changes in the next release is that you can change the size of the icons in this subfolder. So instead of the default size here, it will now have smaller size of icons. So it allows to show more icons in more items in one screen. And the other changes were when you include documents. By default, it will include all documents that you have in your folders, but some users say, I want to exclude, for example, the item that has the extension the backups. I don't want to see the backups in my submenu. And before, up to now, all what you could do was to enter a list of extensions that would be excluded, but I just added the capability to have things like this BK to enter, here, to enter wildcards. So you can exclude or include, because you can turn it to a list of inclusion. So you will control this, what will appear in your menu here by listing this here. And we could say something like this, and the list of items that will be using wildcards. So that's one way. So if I say, for example, I want to include only batch files, BAT, you will see only batch file here. I could do the opposite and exclude batch file. So that's options you have now. And the third thing I added was to use regular expressions. I don't have I'm not good enough to type a regex expression here live, but if I add one, I could use regex column and then type here my regex expression that would be used to include or to exclude files.
Why don't you do like a
submenu?
A / uppercase D. Do you have any that have digits or letters? Because that's a simple one, right?
This one?
Yeah, that would not include those that have a digit.
Okay, and we'll try just to make it more visible to include only those, if they are. I'm not sure if they are in my menu.
Well, I think you'd want the lowercase d if you want to.
Yeah, maybe
the lowercase d, you can say find one that has a digit, right? But the uppercase says that's not a digit.
Ah, I see. I try it that way.
And now here you might need, I don't know, this is where I don't, depending how you've implemented it, you might need like asterisks and
Maybe,
things around it.
yeah. I'm just not fluent enough with regex. I need
Yeah,
to.
no worries.
I have a tool that helps me build them when I need them, but doing them live is really not my cup of tea.
Yeah, no,
but it's
yeah.
available. It was requested by users, and it's now available. And
so Jean, I wanted to take a little pause here in that, and I remember I think this was on a webinar, and this was like 6 months ago, I think, maybe longer even, where you had asked a question and you were trying to use like the question mark and asterisks in a way to apply them with the regex. And
yeah.
For the life of me, I'm like, why would you want to do that? But then you're like, because people are so familiar with using the star, or dot or a question mark. Sorry, star and question mark from the old batch file DOS days. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, that's brilliant, right? People already know it.
Yeah. Even if you type this here internally inside the code of the AutoHotkey code that is behind Quick Access Pop-up, it will be translated to a regex expression that will do the same query, but for users, as you said. And at first, my first version was just enter only the extension. That's very simple to do. And behind that, there was a regular expression to convert it to what was required. But it was simple, but a little limited. So now I expanded it so you can do more flexible inclusion or exclusion in your menu. And the last changes, I won't demonstrate it in detail, but you could exclude folders. If you want files in your menu, you could see only the files in the menu. I can show it quickly here. I just return to one level and include. So now you see only the files. Of course, there's always this link here that will take you to the folder itself if you need to do something in the menu, in the folder, but you will see only files. So these are the changes, the main changes in the live folder. Unless you have questions or remark on that, I would switch to talk about groups.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So groups are, you create a group, you can create submenu here in Quick Access Pop-up. You say add submenu. You give it a name and you can add items in this submenu. I'll just put a text separator here just to make something quick. And here you have, where was it? Yeah, test here, and there's a text here. So you created a submenu. Groups are built the same way, but instead of having the items being displayed in the submenu, the items in your group will be launched one after the other. So I will just remove this test example here and instead create a group. And in the group, I will add two folders. One will be the C root. And the other one will be C Windows. So I'll close all the other Explorer windows here to show you when I open this new group. Where is it? It's here. You see between parentheses that there are two items in this group. And when you click it, it will open the two folders at in the same operation. You can control the size, the location of the folders, the Explorer window to make them side by side if you wish. There's a lot of options that you can do there. But what is new in the next release is this tab here with group member options. What you had before was only the possibility to say in what menu or group the item was located. But now you have here these group member options. For example, you could say that after you open the first item here, wait 3 seconds. So 3,000 milliseconds. And I will launch the same group. So it opens the first window, it waits 3 seconds before launching the second window. This is very useful when you run batches or things like that. So I just created an example here where I have a group demo, where I have a batch that that will create, just set an error level. I'll show you why it is. So I have 4 items here. If I open them just right now, they are all open one after the other without any special configuration, but I'll show you what the configuration we can do on these items. On the first one here, I can say that if there's an error produced by this batch, so if the batch returns an error code, we can stop the execution. So instead of continuing with the 3 other items here, it will stop after this one. So I launch the same group. And so this batch, what it is doing, if I press Y, it will return an error. If I press no, it returns no error. So if I press no, it will continue as before and open the other items. But if I do the same thing and produce an error, so for example, imagine you have a batch that is doing something, and if an error occurs, the batch will return an error. And because there was an error, you don't want the remaining actions to be taken because they could be taken on something that did not work. So now you can, so if there's an error, it will just stop with an error message that tells it was stopped because of the error code number 1, could be different depending on your script. So that's a way to make groups that are safer because they will stop if something wrong happened. The other option that I has added was the wait until the program finishes. So when this is a long batch, it is showing a list of subfolders and you have to press continue a few times. So before continuing with the other items here, it will wait for the program to finish. I will just here, yeah, save. So I make no error, so I continue. And here, the third item would be Notepad to be open in a minimized way and a folder to be open. But it will not be done before I reach the end of the script, which requires me to press enter a few times. Now it's done. So it launched the folder and it also launched Notepad, not minimized yet because I'll show you how to launch something and to be minimized. So that's this option here that I use, which is wait until the program finishes. These options are always under group member options. And these options are only available for application favorites. So this favorite here is an application, it's a batch file. It could be an executable file, any kind of, it could be a script, it could be an AutoHotkey script. So anything that is executed at the end can return an error code. And if it does, it will be checked here if you enable this, this option. The third one here is minimize. So it launched Notepad, but I want Notepad to be launched minimized instead of, because I will just use it later. I want to create a group with a few things that are available, but not necessarily visible at first. So I will save it. I will just make it here at the beginning. So I'm at the second item here, but Notepad is already here. Maybe I should have closed the other windows before. So let me close all windows and start over here. So Notepad is here, but it's not visible and create an error, so it will stop. So Notepad is available, but minimized. And the other option is what, was there another one? Wait until the program finished, stop in case error, launch minimize. And also you can make delays between items that before, up to now, there was a global option in your group. So if I edit the group, there's an option here where I could say, wait 5 seconds between each item. Okay, but some item may require only a fraction of a second and other items will need 3, 4, 5 seconds before being completed, and you want them to be, so before there was no flexibility, it was the same delay for each item, but now you can set a delay here that will be executed after each member of the group, and this delay can be variable depending on the need, the time needed to execute the command. So it add these capabilities add the option to create kind of blocks with your batch and make these blocks being put together in the group and executed one after the other and stopped whenever there's an error. The next step for me will be to have because it was suggested on the forum, to have the error code of the error code from an item being passed to the next one. So a batch could produce, if error level contains number 10, it will tell the next item in the group to do something by passing this variable. So there's still some work to do to make it more flexible or powerful, again, more for power users here, but there's a lot of quick access pop-up that are power users. There are system managers, system administrators, or people managing a lot of documents, and that will appreciate these options to control what to automate their work. So that's the main changes that I wanted to show you about live folders and about groups. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say just as someone who used to work in the corporate world where you'd have files and folders in different places and stuff, you know, and you have projects you work on, right? And being able to, hey, I need to work on this thing, and it's involved 3 different files on a different folder. It's great to be able to group those together, and it's one click instead of 4 that you have to hunt down.
Yeah, the first goal was to create environments. So if I switch tasks to someone that requires 3 files, for example, when I publish a new version of Quick Access Pop-up, I need 2 text files and a few scripts and folders and 5, 6 items to be opened at the same time. And I do it frequently, so that's convenient to have all these things becoming available in one click.
Well, and the other thing I personally now use it a ton for is when let's say I finish creating a video or a webinar post. I have, if I remember right, there's 11 different, there's like 5 or 6 Facebook groups, 2 LinkedIn groups, the AutoHotkey forum, Reddit, and it's what I did is I put all the URLs into a group. And so I click once and it loads them all in my browser. So I can just go through and paste and close and paste and close. And it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's it. El, if you want to take over. Yeah.
Yeah. Did, Hellbent, just because, and I don't know if John, have you, I remember before we started, I was asking this, but have you looked at his tool for creating buttons and menus? Buttons.
Not yet. No, not
yet. Okay. Maybe he can demonstrate. Hellbent, can you demonstrate that just real quickly?
Yeah, sure.
Because it's really amazing.
Okay. Let me see. Share screen.
And John, Dale asked if instead of having fixed amount of delay times, could you have it basically looking for a when wait active to tell it to look for a certain,
Yeah, that's the first option. I wait for a program to be completed. That's the first option that was shown. It will wait for the end. It would run wait instead of run. So before continuing, it will wait for the program or the batch to be completed.
Okay, it's going to take me a second to find my thread.
Roger said, all I know is 150 lines of sleep and send inputs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what he was referring to, but something that's funny. And someone was asking, I don't know if either of you guys have played with, was it OpenCV, which I've never, at least I don't recall ever using it.
OpenCV? No. What would that be for?
Well, the definition they provide is OpenCV provides a real-time optimized computer vision library, tools, and hardware. And then someone else said it's like image search, but more advanced, which I can understand that one. Now, Jackie Shtuk, the guy that does the webinars and podcasts with me, in one of our webinars, he demonstrated his tool that he had written, which is a really optimized way for searching for images, and you can shrink them down and do much faster stuff. So you might want to hunt down that webinar where we dove into what he did. But that was, I just don't do image search stuff, so I'm just not aware of those things.
Okay, so this is the forum thread for it, and it's got two different components to it. Well, it's technically three, but two of them are like it's broken mainly into two. So for the first one, it has two subsections. So it's got a way to create the design for the button, the graphics for the button, and then it also has a way of controlling it. So basically, it has three states. You can hover over it, you can press it, and it does its default thing. So that's in the first part. So I'll just get a copy of the script, the example script, and then edit it from there. Okay, so I have that, and I think this should just work. Yeah, okay, so here I have a button. This is the default button, so if I just start creating a bunch of new buttons, do I should just probably put this in a loop. So this is how you add just a basic button, and you can assign it whatever text you want to have on it. Right, and it's got three different states that it controls for on its own. So if I leave it alone, if I mouse over it, and if I press it, it'll change it. I can give it a label that I want and give it the background color that I want. So on top of that, there's about 50 different fields that I can edit for each and every button. And I can do that directly in here by starting to do things like, let's see, I don't remember all my keys because I don't actually use it like this, but I think it's main color 1. Joe, do you remember?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. The point is, we'll get past this in a second, but there's like, I can alter the button like this, and that didn't work, so obviously I have the wrong key, but the better way to do it is to actually use that tool that I have.
Right.
And now the tool that I have, you can just go through it, and I won't spend too much time on doing the design, but I'll do something super. Actually, you know what? Let me start over. I'll start something basic, just for demo. So I'll just go to hover, and the color that's on top, it can have a gradient. I'll get rid of the glossy. So this color here, I can actually use 2 different colors on a gradient, and that's the main 1 and main 2. So I can do like green up there, and then maybe white down at the bottom. And then I can come here and check what it looks like. I'm going to get rid of the glossy effect. So there. Now, if I'm happy with this, I can save it as a PNG, a set of PNGs with all of that. So it has one PNG that looks exactly like this, and then 3 other ones that look like these. So I can do that, or I can save it as an object and now use that as a theme to skin the buttons in here. So I'm going to do that.
This is where it gets exciting, Sean, to me. I was like, holy cow. And just understanding that you're actually, drawing these buttons and they're not an actual file, an image.
We can take a look at the code for drawing things in a minute too. It looks a lot more complicated than it actually is. It's actually really simple. Once you get the hang of it, it's a lot of noise. That's what it basically is. So in here, it has an example of how to call up to set a session defaults. So if I do this, these two lines here, and I'll do it starting on the third button. So here I'm calling up and getting the returned object from this. The reason ultimately I didn't need to have it like set up like this to return something like this, but it was when I started out, this was my planning was like, okay, I'll return this function that's got an object and it'll return that object. So that's the idea. It just creates a temporary object, returns that object. And now I'm going to use that to call up that button here. I have actually multiple different button designs. This is the first one that I've developed out to have the tool and everything. But later on down the road, I'll add more buttons. So what I can do is with the button controller, it can control multiple different button types, button themes, like designs. So right now, this is the only one that's currently available. It's called GUI button type 1. So if I had another design, not just the colors and all that, like this tool changes, but actual different design, perhaps like this right here, for example. My computer gets slowed down quite a bit by being on the Zoom, but yeah, like these. So later on, I'll add other buttons like these, for example. But for now, it's just this one. So I call up that particular button design, and then I say, okay, set the session defaults for it. And it's going to go and overwrite an object and use those values every single time a new button is created instead. So it's got, first, it has 4 different objects that it uses. First, it goes in and overwrites everything with all, and then it goes in and overwrites that with the default values. So if I'm designing something where a particular color that I'm using or font size that I'm using is the same for all of them, rather than going in and setting it individually for them, I can set them in this all parameter and it'll overwrite everything. So I don't have to set it individually for all the other ones. But that's it. I think that's it. So now it should have those buttons. Yeah, right here. So the last 3 buttons are now those new buttons. And if I want to go in and let's say I don't want to change everything about a button. Let's say on this last button, what I want is in this parameter here, maybe I just want to do the main color. If you see it, stop me. It should say main color 1 or main color 2 as the key.
You just search for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, main color 2.
Right there.
Right.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Thank you. So I've never tested this, but this should work. This should work. So let's say red. Like I said, I've never tested this, and you know you don't do this. You know, it's a bad idea to do.
Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
But hopefully that last button is now red. Yep.
Should I do a drum roll? Oh, there it is.
Bravo.
There we go.
Yeah,
Right.
and so maybe someday, Jean, if we could figure out the whole building of menus and submenus and stuff, you could be drawing everything instead of.
Yeah, I look at the GDIP.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's complex, but I've been able to do a few things with that. There's a way to do things with that, but to draw menus, there's so many things to look at.
Yes,
the width will
is.
depend on the longest label. If the total width exceeds the right side of your screen, it will open the submenu on the left side of your menu instead of the right side. So there's so many things to consider that I just don't want to.
Yeah, there definitely is. It's like those. Okay, so like Windows, their default stuff, it does everything. This does only what you tell it to do.
Yeah, and it's very well done. I really like the way you use objects and classes to do this. That's very neat. Yeah.
What you were saying about like opening on the side and everything like that. For example, that's something I want it for this program here. So this is how I can just take screenshots whenever I want. Mm-hmm. And then when I want to look at them, I can just pop up this, and this knows to pop up. Either what it tries to do is it tries to line up with this edge here. So if I do it now, it'll line up with the edge, right? But if it can't do that, it'll line up with this edge here. And if I go down here, now it tries to put it down here, but it can't, so it'll put it up here.
But there's a lot of calculation behind that to produce this flexibility. And for pop-up menus, there's so many things that would have to be calculated like that. It would drive me crazy. So I prefer to work on more, I would say, more features that are doing things instead of just on the. But if it was easier, I would like it so much to do that. But there's no library to do pop-up menus using GDIP.
What I've been trying to do is collect a bunch of tools that make using GDIP a lot more user friendly. Mm-hmm. So I only really started diving into like using it to draw anything like 2 years ago, and I found it so annoying that I actually created an editor so that way I could actually work with it in real time, right? And then I only really started playing around with the functions since then. So like I had to create this tool in order to even bother to even waste my time with GDIP. Mm-hmm. But this makes it so much easier because now I can like design. Let's say these are going to be 2 separate list blocks, and all I have to do is just design it in here. And I don't know which one it is. Let's see. Okay, this one right here. So now if I go and I can come into a script. That's the code to generate that. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's if you're new to this thing, this is very noisy. It's like I can't. This looks too complicated. But every single line is literally create a brush, use that brush to draw something, destroy the brush, and that's it. So it might look for people it looks very complicated, but it's not. It's create a brush, draw something with the brush, destroy the brush. And mm-hmm. I don't have to worry about playing with these values because I have the program that does that for me. So if I just want to create there. I just want that. And now if I want to do something in a, let's say a layered window or whatever, and I just want that code, now I have that code to do that. Or if I want, like, quite often people want like a little pop-up message or something like that, I can do, and let's see.
Mm-hmm. So it's a list of snippets of code that you can easily paste when you need that.
This is a class for handling layered windows. So it has all the code that you need to set the graphics and everything like that, to create everything to do with creating the layered window, basically. Mm-hmm. And then I can go in to here and let's say, grab this thing here.
And I noticed Brian joined us. I don't know, Brian, if you have a specific question you're wanting help with, but let us know if there's something you want to work on.
And there, now I have that on my screen. So if I want to design a simple message template, let me clear some of these other noise.
Are you using your arrows to change the size?
Yeah, I'm using, I have a couple, there's a couple of ways I can interface with it. So I can either type in directly what I want. Mm-hmm. I can use these buttons here to adjust the X position, Y position, the width and the height. And I can use the shift keys with it, and that'll do it 10 spaces at a time.
Yes,
and then I can do the same thing with the arrow keys. So I can use the up, down, left, and right to move, shift with those to move 10 at a time. And I can use control to adjust the size.
Mm-hmm. Hey, just because it was really interesting, I don't know if you have it handy or can find it, but Hellbent, remember when we were talking about something and I mentioned I was helping that local restaurant, and then you did like an animated GIF updating the name and the do you happen to have that handy?
I probably can find it quick enough.
Because it was one of those things.
I put a bunch of things in a folder named you. So I don't know if it's in here or not, but there was a few things.
Yeah. The layered window.
Maybe the pick edit. Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So this he could automate typing in. Hi Auto Hotkey would be the name of the person, right? And then in the background having this going on, and I'm like, it really opened my eyes of like the not functionality, but the cool kind of things you can do when you're actually drawing your images instead of using an image. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And you save it in a GIF file, animated GIF?
No, that is actually just here. I'll show. Let me show you with this. Let me strip this down to its core components. How about this? How about this right here? I'll keep that there, just whatever, but I don't need that anymore. Likewise, I don't need this anymore. Actually, I'll get rid of all this stuff I don't need. It's just noise. So here, I've got it going into a timed routine, and all it's going to do is it's going to clear the window, then draw a shape to the window, and then update the window, right? And I'll just come in here and add a variable of something. So I'll say, maybe up here, I'll say x colon equals 0. And here I'll say, this technically doesn't need to be here because I'm using the same thing over and over.
Which actually is a really good demonstration also for those you follow along, is as you're building something, you realize a better way to structure your code, right? It doesn't always happen at the beginning. You just find ways to optimize.
I think I'm just about ready. So I'm going to use, when I create this object, it has a bunch of keys. One of the only keys that you would actually need from it are like the handle, so .hwnd or .g for the graphics. So if I want to draw something to the graphics, I think this should work. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So now this thing is animating, right? And you can do, it doesn't have to, of course, be something as simple as that. It can be, you can do much more complicated things, like perhaps animating these guys. Right? So any kind of animation. The principle is the same. It's have a loop or a routine that's called up, a draw loop, clear whatever graphics you need, and then, or just update the graphics. Update the graphics, whatever you want. So for something like,
go ahead.
Nice.
I think it's pretty cool because you're not saving files, right? You're redrawing everything and
yeah, it's live animation.
Yeah.
Could it be saved to a file, or maybe very complex to transform it to a GIF file, for example?
So, like I haven't done that technically, but what you can do is I have a program here that allows me, that records screenshots, right? That I can use in video editing for time lapses and things like that. The same principle can apply, right? You can have it set up so that way when it goes into your routine, it can save an image. So you can, so in fact, like if you're doing really complicated images, that's the way you would want to do it if you were going to be doing it in some other kind of playback, because you can have it take an hour to render out that image and then play it back in a second, right?
Yeah.
If that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Questions about that? No?
Great demonstration of using objects and classes.
Yeah, it's just a very simple class. If you know, when you start using these things, the setup is always the same. So get rid of the setup.
And then Dan Thompson detect image change by pixel constrained fonts or OCR. Detect image change. I'm just trying to think how you'd be actually, I don't work much with. I don't do any gaming with AutoHotkey, and then which isn't always what you use image, stuff with images for. But someone had asked about.
I think Speedmaster just posted a script on the forum today that would do something like that.
Well, does it basically where you first find the image and then just you're constantly searching for it and see if it disappears or what? I mean, with Jackie's code that he did in his webinar, it allowed for small fluctuations, which was good because some tools, they update them, some programs update them all the time, right? But yeah, I don't know if.
Yeah, I've used image search for one thing ever, besides the tutorials. I just don't have a use for image search.
And then number 2, constrained fonts for OCR if an image uses only one font. I don't know what that. Dan, and actually, I don't. Do you have the link to Zoom? Because I think you've joined us in Zoom before. I mean, I don't know why you don't just join. I don't, not knocking you if you don't want to talk. It's fine. But I thought before you'd been in Zoom, so I can give you the link here. But if anyone who signs up, they can just join us in Zoom and ask.
Are you reading from? Are you reading from chat in the Zoom or somewhere else?
No, I'm just making up stuff. Yeah, no, it's on the live channel.
Oh, okay. On your YouTube channel? Okay.
On YouTube, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Sorry, Dan. It's like, so yeah, you're working with Citrix. And actually, I have a client this afternoon. It's funny. They reached out to me, like, hey, we'd like to do some stuff in this. And I said, oh, great. Blah, blah, blah. I can help you with it. And then as a side note, someone said, oh, by the way, we didn't mention this, but this is all on a remote server. Does that change anything? I'm like, changes everything. Like but they did say they should be able to put AutoHotkey on that computer, which that's a game changer, right? If we can get AutoHotkey there, suddenly it opens up a lot of possibilities. But yeah, image, I hate dealing with Citrix stuff. You're often are dealing with just image search, and there are sometimes other things you can see into them, but not much. Old Zoom does not work. Right. Well, there's a different, and I emailed you the link today. There's a, instead of having the other link I was doing was my private, not my private, but my personal meeting room. And I figured, maybe I shouldn't just be giving that out to everybody, on the planet.
I'll be back in a minute, Joe.
Yeah, no worries. So I created a new meeting that's just on Fridays during this time. Let me see. Trying to find that's not the chat. Zoom always, oh, here we go. Participants. I don't know why they have participants in chat in like different spots. Invite, copy, invite link. So I'll throw it in here. Just for those of you who, if you do join, which is, awesome, just, leave yourself muted unless you have something to say, please. That's the Zoom link for this. Yeah, well, I just put it here, Dan. And I just remember this is delayed. But yeah, my IT would not do that. Yeah, a lot of places. I assume you're replying to my statement about putting AutoHotkey on the remote server, which I get it. That is not often, possible. Now, the other thing you could, always take a step back and say, are there different ways to connect to the data and does someone actually have access to the database behind what you're doing or whatever, right? Sometimes you actually, there's APIs or some other ways to do this stuff that there's better approaches, but it just depends what you're doing.
Karen Veer is joining us.
Yeah. Yeah, and Brian, thanks for replying. He just had no particular questions. I have a great, which I think most people have seen it, but it's I think it's right at an hour long intro to AutoHotkey. And even people who've been using AutoHotkey for a long time have gone through it and said, "Wow, I learned a lot in it." And it's it's a very basic intro. But AutoHotkey it's crazy how many things you can do, right? In my newsletters the other day, I mentioned the 17 different ways you can programmatically connect to programs and automate them with AutoHotkey. And there's more, but I covered 17 at a high level. Just, familiarize yourself with different approaches, because depending on the computer you're connecting to, program you're connecting to, there's so many different ways. It's hard to keep track of and to know which ones to start with and which ones are better, quote unquote, better. Yeah, if you know what, let me put. Yeah, it's AutoHotkey is an amazing tool. And here's a Daniel. I'm going to put the if you want to register, because see, if you register, Friday Zoom link. So this link, by the way, I'm putting it in the YouTube chat. You can register, and then I'll send you a reminder. I don't use it for anything else, but you'll get an email of a reminder of we're having the live support, and then you'll have the link right away to go into Zoom. So it's kind of like a webinar in that sense, but the YouTube is handy, but boy, for sharing screens and for being able to see what's going on, it looks like. Hey, Dan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, I make sure I'm muted. So I'm successful now on Zoom. One thing I was curious about, the very thing I was talking about to the Cistrix program, whether I can put my Zoom window on that, even though I am currently RDP'd into my work computer. And I'm guessing that I could even put the window around that. I will be careful and make sure there's nothing confidential.
Thank you. I was going to say, because that's the first thing that's like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah.
I probably won't do that today.
No. Right. Yeah. Better safe than sorry.
So I have difficulties because the program I'm using through work, everything is just a fixed picture, and the only shortcuts are those that the programmer of that software put in, like tab functions and some alt letter short keys. And I like to be able to detect image change so I know when I can give the next command. And I think what I've considered doing is taking 5 highly variable pixels and taking the color pictures, summing them up, and seeing when that sum changes, so I have more than one point. There might be much more elegant ways of doing this, but I thought I would have to use get pixel to find out when the image changed, and not just pick one point, but maybe 5 or something. But there might be way more elegant ways of doing this.
Yeah, and that's what the first thing I would say is watch the webinar that I linked to up above, and I can find it and paste it again if you don't have it handy. But the one where Jackie walked through what he did, because he was basically kind of doing that approach of being able to say, okay, let me look for these pictures, but he streamlined it and made them, it just optimized it a lot, and it's faster, very fast and much more accurate than what you would think, especially if there's slight gradations of the colors and stuff. So he did a lot of work with it. It was pretty cool.
And the other part was that I want to get some numbers out of the pictures. The numbers are always the same font. They're always just the digits 0 through 9. And I wanted to improve accuracy by having a small matrix of where they are spatially arranged.
Hold on just one second.
Sure.
Here. Let me understand. When you say the matrix is what threw me. First off, the location of where the numbers are going to be, does that change? Is that what you're meaning?
It can. It might change a little bit. Usually it's the same. But the numbers are always going to be the same size and shape. And how I started off in this project, it was a long project, and I stopped partway through, was I wrote a program that would save the whole image as a file, as a bitmap, and then go through and collect a big array of all the pixel colors. And then I would manually pick out what each number looked like, and then try and save that, and then do an image search for each of those digit shapes. The brute force method. And then save where a spatial XY coordinate is for each of those finds. The numbers actually are arranged in a circle, which makes it a little bit more difficult. Not a diagonal circle, but they're not in a table. Basically, it's a bullseye shape, and with 4 layers of the circle, and about 4 quadrants for each circle, and the numbers are in each one. And I wanted to get that out and get the XY coordinate for each of the single digits. It's something I'm doing by hand right now.
This sounds pretty wild, honestly. Like especially the target thing like that. I wish I could almost see us, at some point. Maybe we don't share it live, but if I'm just curious, like that sounds really interesting. But yeah, I never looked into it a lot, but I believe the find text function actually really has stuff with OCR built into it where it would identify letters in, which is what it was, but it wasn't really used that way, but it is built into it, if I remember right.
Slightly related topic. I followed your link about OCR built into Windows 10, and I tested it. It works really well. The only reason I'm not going to use it is that it goes out on internet connection to Microsoft, and the OCR is located. I'm pretty sure it's right because I tested. I tested it by disconnecting my internet connection, and it doesn't work. It uses Bing's an OCR that's built into Bing. Really? Oh well, that's
I'll go
different from
double
my
check
experience.
it. Yeah, I'm happy to look at that. Now, granted, I didn't look at my network traffic when I was using it. Right? I looked at the COM object, the point in time where I said, "Oh, it's calling a COM object." Great. I would be amazed, and of course, I can't disable my internet right now and test it.
No.
But I could fire a Fiddler and see if anything happens, when I use it. Let me do that real quickly.
Before you go too far, I did an internet search on this, and someone else on a discussion made the same point. So someone else's experience also is that the image is being sent to Bing.
Nope.
And Bing is doing the OCR.
Well, let me hold on.
Well, if you find something else, that's neat. I am easily misled.
I'm running it right now, looking at my network traffic, and I don't see anything being sent from my computer.
Okay, when you're all done, try turning it off. But I also did
fair enough.
A Google search on this topic, and someone else had the same idea that I had, that it was if depending on your level of confidentiality.
To me, it's way too fast. It's way too fast for because my internet sucks, honestly. Anyway, but we'll get back to
that later.
I'm a big believer.
A confidentiality issue.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in really doing the real test, like you said. So yeah, I'll try that later to confirm.
So I'll have to explore what you mentioned on there, your old method using Tesseract. That might be better for me.
No, yeah, the Tesseract is a local file. You could take that. It was very slow though, and not nearly as accurate.
Much slower.
Yeah, which is why I switched immediately when I saw that the Windows 10 had it. And it was so I tested it. I'm like, holy cow! It was far more accurate and fast.
It worked really well. I agree there. In fact, it worked to me. I was extremely happy when I tested it, saw how well it worked, until I found out there was a confidentiality issue.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this just to confirm, because I think I know the answer. The OCR stuff, you're still using it on the Citrix program. Is that right? Computer.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Where am I using it? I was using it actually with your program. It doesn't matter. I could either, here's my setup. I'm often at home, sometimes at work. And even on the work computer, there's a link from that through Citrix to a server. So I'm never on the same program as the software.
Okay, well, that was my question. Yeah, because I have a whole, and I think I demonstrated it last week with somebody where I was showing how with the UI automation tool, you can get the get the text under like any program you're in, and programmatically, it's not OCR, right? It programmatically gets it. However, you're still doing it on a remote computer, so you're screwed in that sense.
But even if I was in-house, it's still through Citrix. There are a bunch of applications that are in a Citrix window, and even when you're physically right there, nobody's on the host.
You don't work for the CIA, do you?
No, I'm in medicine.
Yeah, no, I actually did work for like the DIA and FBI and CIA and stuff for some at one point when I was back in DC, and it was very restrictive on what you could do, which was good.
It has great security, great privacy also.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So just for those that are following along, yeah, that UI automation approach, it's amazing. And if you Google like text under mouse, I think it's the same Feiyu. I think it's still the same guy that did Find Text. Also wrote it where you can, go on any program and hit a hotkey and it will get the text under the GUI, whatever GUI is there, and almost any program, it rips that text. It's really impressive. I highly recommend check out. However, you're not on that. It gets back to you're looking at a screen basically. So yeah, unfortunately, Dan, for you can't do that.
And not only that, not even the things that look like text. Sometimes you can copy them. Sometimes you can't, even when they look like they're ASCII text.
And that was one of the other things actually I was going to ask you was, sometimes, because I used to remote in and do Citrix stuff, sometimes you could highlight a thing and hit Control-C and it would programmatically copy and share the clipboard, which is an option I can turn on. Now, can you turn on that?
Well, that works on many items, but not all. I think in fact, you're the person who explained to me that the clipboard saves things. Thank you very much for your info, that the clipboard saves things in different ways. Like, for example, on that, I actually found that if I clip some things and paste it into Notepad, I get a different result than when I paste into WordPad. It somehow is using different set of data from the clipboard.
It's actually, John and I we've talked about it some because he's looking at doing some stuff with QAP, but it was like, it's so complex. Yeah, and I need to get back to it because I actually had, and I demonstrated a couple of them of how to automate shoving an image into your clipboard, right, and then pasting and this and that. But there's like 5 different, maybe more types of. When you hit copy, it might create a plain text version, an RTF version, an HTML version, a picture. Like there's so many different formats. Files, I'm sure, are a different one as well. Yeah, it's so complex. But anyway, so that would be getting back to your case. If it's possible on the tool you're connecting, because I'm always one that tries to say, if I can get around working with images, that's my go-to, even if it's more work. It's in the long run, it'll be more reliable. And so that's what I try to choose. On that program where you're trying to get the numbers, is that something that if you actually were to highlight it, that if you hit Control-C or whatever, can you copy that to the clipboard?
No.
Okay. All right.
No, well, except maybe I could do capturing of an image off my screen, I could actually capture it as a bitmap directly from the software. So I could capture a bitmap.
Yeah, that's still, you might as well, to me, grab it from your screen, than doing that. Now, with my version of Find, I created a slightly altered one of Find Text because what I didn't also like was I wanted to be able to say only look in this area. Now, granted, you can adjust whatever you want anyway, but it sounds like if those numbers are in the same location, you should be able to identify that and then programmatically, do OCR, on that location very simply.
And I was making progress toward that. It was just a long task. I stopped a while back. My first task was identifying the shapes, and I did that by having GetPixel go through the whole array of the bitmap and write it out so I could visually manually pick out their shapes.
And again, I would actually see, I think the Find Text function has done all that for you, right? It has that built into it. Yeah.
Maybe I have not used that. I've used, I'll explore Find Text.
And it's ironic. And it actually, it explains why it's called Find Text, because it confuses people. They're like, no, I want to search for an image. And you're like, no, it is looking for an image. It's looking for a thing. However, after it finds those images, it will do OCR and look for letters within the images and do some really complex crap. But no one, I've never seen anybody actually use it as an example. But Jackie and I, we were looking at it, we're like, wow, this is really crazy what's built into this. But for me, again, I'm like the Windows OCR thing for me works great. So I just never used it.
I'm actually, to explore it, I think you'll find it is a confidential. It does go to Bing. I'm pretty sure. I bet you $1. Not a lot, $1. Because I'm not convinced you don't know way more than I do.
Well, I mean, I can share. Let's do this as an example. Well, actually, I can't easily because
I'll let you explore that later. And if you find out I'm wrong, please tell me. I'd be happy.
Well, but let me demonstrate. Let me just share my screen here real quick to show what I did. So I came in here to, this is Fiddler. Fiddler's watching my network traffic. Here's an image. I'm going to use my tool to go like this. Unfortunately, it did try, but let's try it again. Let me clear my traffic again. Let's go over here. So it just did OCR on that. There was no traffic, right? So that's my quick, simple test. However, I still agree, hey, nothing's foolproof, right? It's capturing all processes, but I'll do what you said. I'll kill the internet and go give it a try and confirm that.
Okay. And somewhere online, I found somebody's discussion of this topic, and they raised this issue also.
Yeah, I'd still say the proof's in the eating of the pudding.
Okay.
Right?
We'll get back to this later then.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
Now, well, I was going to say, because and that's let me pull up just the other codes, part of what you had shared, and this is where I was just confused, because in some of this, where you were looping and then changing a value on something.
Yeah, this might be the from the AutoHotkey FAQ.
Well, like this was the original code, but to me, I'm like, it's
and I copy and paste that out of the FAQ.
Well, but this is my example of a toggle.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to say status set equal to not status.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to launch my script and run it. And now notice as it loops over, the first item is going from 0 to 1. And then, of course, I can't mouse over the thing. I have to do it fast. The A index is the second item, right? But it's just turning that on and off, because it's looping over it. Does that make sense?
And how is the user telling? Every time they press Control P,
sure. Yeah, I just paused it. Control P just paused it. Right, so it stopped. So this is telling it, make it a 0. Hey, it starts off like blank, I think. Oh, make it not blank. So it turns it into a 1. And then the next time through, it's 1. Turn it into a 0. Right? So
okay.
That's why this here at the beginning, the 0 and the 1 are changing back and forth. Because every time it goes through, it's just turning it on and off.
So this is toggling itself.
Right.
I want the user to toggle it.
Well, but you just have it behind a hotkey.
Oh, you put it in front of the loop.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And I'm just saying it's that simple, right? Is like, and all I did was in yours, you had it this. I didn't want to have to worry that it keeps moving my mouse. So I said, you know what? I'm going to change it to that. That's really all I changed out of the functionality. But yeah, neat. The control.
I like it. So yeah. A topic that you bring up, more of a general topic, and one that perhaps I am still confused on, the ways to stop execution of a flow of control. There's return, which I use all the time, which you use at the end of subroutines and at the end of each script. Mm-hmm. When I put multiple hotkeys in the same program, I put return after each one. There are other things. Go ahead. You're about to.
Well, I was going to say you don't have to, right? Let's say if I had a Control T, If that's one line, I don't need a return. I could have a Control G
for a single line.
Right. Right.
But if it's multiple, I need to put return after each separate hotkey.
If you want it to return,
section.
If you don't want it to return, you don't.
If I wanted to do both functions together, because if I started T, it would run into G.
No, yeah, if it was more than one line, yes. Actually, even if it's not, I just put it on 2 lines, then it would keep going, right?
So then I'd get G also.
Well, actually, here, I mean, it still would be fine. So Control T is to do the message box. Oh, and it did trigger the second one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually put I very seldom have a single line hotkey. So I almost always have putting a return.
But the other thing I wanted to bring up, and here's, there's no, the other thing, which I hope you get to, there's no right, wrong answer, right? But in your example, here's one thing I'll do, right? Is in this example, you have the hotkey triggering this and whatever, and then the P pauses, it goes on. But what I'll do is I'll move this hotkey into a whole separate script, right? And then I'll have the user hit the hotkey. It launches what would be this, and then this, instead of a P, would be a exit, right? So,
yeah. So this brings up other things that are mysteries to me. When do you want to use exit app versus return? Whether you want to keep the hotkey still available for reuse?
Well, the script is a better, exit app is going to exit that script. And that's my point of, if this was in its own entire file, hey, you have another hotkey running that's always stays running that launches that script. And then your hotkey inside that script would just, when you hit, instead of pausing it, it would exit the script, right? But your other hotkey in the main one is always running. So you can always launch it, and then inside it, it would, exit it. But
so if I use that scheme, I should have exit app on each of the sub scripts and return on the
well, it won't matter.
Controller script.
So let me show you, like here at the top of mine. Trying to get there.
These are fundamental things that I've somehow been able to get by without major problems on, but are probably fundamental knowledge I should have.
No, what it gets back, that's my point, is there's no right and wrong way, right? There's so many different ways to do this. But I call, like a lot of mine, these launch, almost all of my app keys launch scripts, right? And then inside that script, I might have a different hotkey to do whatever, but notice they're one-liners, right? So that was my point. You said you'd have a return after it. If you're just launching that other script, you don't need the return, right? It's just nice and tight. And then in that script, when it's launched, then you have a hotkey in there that will exit it, and it's done.
I will give this a try and see if it solves all. Well, I was about to say all my problems. I have problems not related to hotkey, but but maybe it will solve some other hotkey problems.
Cool.
Neat. Well, I'll give that a go, and it looks organized too.
It does. Yeah, and it helps. It's kind of like using a function, and putting a function in the other file. It keeps it. This is my launch. This is my main script, right? Which has thousands of lines, but it mostly launches other things. I do some things inside it, but a lot of it is just running other scripts. Actually, so here's one for like Jean. I could convert it over, right? Apps key and O launches OBS, and then launches my 2 storage places where I save videos. But that would be a group under his tool.
And in this scheme, you're using run to start each program. And then within the sub programs, you're using exit app.
Well, these are just folders. So yeah, that's just opening a specific folder with Explorer. And then this one is launching OBS, which is an entire program. So that, that'll just, I have a button on that to kill it. But right, that's like, I can't demonstrate it, but this locker, it's a great example. I can't open the file. Let me do that. So here, this locker, it will kill the power to all of my screens, and then it kills my apps key and U. So don't tell anybody. But this will kill this script and restart the power to the screens, right? But see all these disable all the other keys on my keyboard. So when I worked at corporate America, I would get in trouble if I walked away from my keyboard and I didn't have it locked, right? But the problem is, of course, they had these crazy passwords. So I wrote this script, which is the other one launches it, right? This is the same general concept. So I want to highlight it is the other script launches this one. Inside this one, it kills the feed to all my monitors and kills almost every key on my keyboard and mouse, right? And then when I hit this one thing, there's a couple exceptions, but I hit apps key and U, it says, oh, hey, turn back on the monitors, and then exit this app.
Very neat.
Yeah. Yeah. So that way someone can come up and, my screens are dead, but if they try to hit something, it's still dead unless they happen to know what this is. And of course, you can change that to whatever you want.
Yes, that is neat. Okay. So for my uses, should I activate a sub-program, by run, or rather than sending the sub-program's hotkey?
Well, I point to the file, my other script, right?
Okay. So and you wouldn't even need a hotkey then, just in it, if you didn't want to, if you're running out.
Right.
So
yeah, it depends on what you launch. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the apps A, right? The apps A launches my Windows Spy, the built-in Windows Spy tool. I'm like, why not? Right. And then I can just use this. I don't need a hotkey, right? It just closes it.
Okay. You've given me some fundamental new approaches.
Yeah. And it's, again, there's no right or wrong answer, right? It's on preference and what you're doing. But I like this because it just helps compartmentalize what I'm doing. And also, like up here somewhere, notice here I have this just launches. This is my button clock for the start menu. The spell checker, my general menu I have that I wrote years ago, my window snipping tool, and that Swaparoo, which I just released earlier, which monitors the clipboard for text, and then will replace that text with, that's what I wrote it for. It looks for any certain text and then says, hey, if you find it, put in this text instead, which can be handy.
I'm guessing that you have an exit app or exit at the end of most of your subscripts rather than just finishing with a return.
No, these are all running.
Oh, and the difference is that if you do return, it stays running.
No.
But if we use your scheme, go ahead.
No, well, here's the thing. If you want the script to stay running, and Jean or Helpent can correct me on this one, you either need to have a hotkey in it or the persistent directive. Right. So if either of those are in there, it will keep it running. Now, maybe there's other stuff. John, are you aware of anything else?
Hot strings, hotkeys, or GUIs.
Do hot strings keep it running? Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Right. By their very nature, they have to.
Yep. But a GUI would. I mean,
yes, a GUI does too.
But no. Because what if you don't have
I have never used persistent in a single script. Almost never.
But are you telling it to destroy? Are you displaying it? I'm just saying is you have it waiting for a button, right?
I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure if you just if I said GUI color 22222, that would change the background of a GUI without doing anything else. I think as soon as that line's included in my script, it'll keep it persistent. We could test it. I can create a test.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure anything you do with a GUI, anything creates an object behind the scenes.
I don't think it'd be cool to test. I don't work with GUIs a lot, right? But my experience is you need to show it and then tell it to wait for something.
Okay, so I have.
Oh, sorry, Jean. I just saw it.
Yeah, I'll just take a second here to thank you, Joe, and every other. See you next week.
Thanks, Sean. Good seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, nice meeting you, man. Okay, so here I'll share my screen for a second just to show you. But Or here, I'll put this code in the chat.
Okay.
And you can even get rid of the GUI close part. All you need is just that GUI color, and you'll notice that when you run the script, it doesn't exit.
Well, but
Anything to do with a GUI. You can get rid of all of that other stuff, all of it.
Where is it?
It shouldn't exit. It should, when you run the script, you know how, like, if you had exit app after it, you would notice that in your status at the bottom, it'll say it's exit.
Studio sometimes acts funny with temp.
When you exit app, does that close all the GUIs?
That would close everything to do with the script.
So the disadvantage would be if somebody wants to look at it. I was thinking of putting exit app at the end of my subprograms, but if I do that, any GUI windows that I want to be able to look at for a while will close if it hits that.
Well, yeah, and to clarify, so that's what the script is running, but you're not going to see a GUI, right? At least in this example here.
But if you were to take, let's say now, if you were to say put a timer in there without the GUI and try to use the timer is going to exit pretty much immediately. It's going to exit the script.
So the problem that stimulated this is that my scripts need to be reloaded after a while. For an unknown reason, they stop running at random times, and I haven't figured out what causes that yet. And then I need to reload. And I was thinking a workaround would be if I put exit app at the end. The only trouble is that the GUI displays with information, I won't be able to see if I automatically exit the app when it's done.
So, well, when GUI attach it to GUI close, like it's right there.
So, okay. So when I hit the exit window X up at the corner, then have it do exit app.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. You can have it do, you can even just, if you don't use that, it'll just hide the window and it'll be ready for you to call. Like, let's say you have a hotkey. I usually use like number pad 1 to show my GUI, right? When I close it, I don't necessarily have to have it go to the GUI close label. I can just have it go to oblivion and it'll just basically hide it.
In that case, the program is still running.
Yes.
And so I'm working at my mystery problem of how they get stalled, which I don't understand. Well, I've used Joe's suggestion of looking at the things you get at from the tray icon, and that hasn't helped me.
The lines most recently execute, at least that's a good start, right?
And it's always at return with some really big time value, because if I haven't run it for a while. So it finished, and I'm not using multiple threads. It's a mystery to me at this time.
Well, are you expecting it to be in the middle of something?
No. My problem is, and I still see it in the tray. In fact, but it doesn't seem responsive to me until I tell it to reload. And I was working on a solution for that. And I thought a solution might be, as Joe said, to have exit app at the end of each one and then restart it by a master.
Well, I think he's talking about more like you have, rather than having a script that has hundreds of hotkeys in it with hundreds of lines of code, potentially each hotkey, have a master script that launches that it has the hotkeys, and what it does, instead of executing code, it runs that script that has the code.
Uh-huh.
So
maybe that'll be different. I'll give it a try.
You'd have one script that controls all your hotkeys and hot strings. So it's just the management of that. It's not the management of the code that it does. It's just the management of the hotkeys, so you can keep them organized.
Well, if nothing else, it would be more nicely organized, and maybe it will even solve the need to reload. I don't know. We'll find out.
Now, with that reload, often you want to add a return after that. Not always necessary, but usually it's you can do actions after that. It's not like the exit app.
So see this, Dan? So I don't have my normal hotkeys built into it. So I'm using a set timer here to jump to reload it. And actually, let's increase this to every 3 seconds, right? So that's just a set timer. So it's going to be like its own script in that, it's not quite multi-threading, but it'll mimic it in a lot of ways. Every 3 seconds, it's going to jump down here. The tooltip is going to say, here, a now, sleep 100, and then it's going to reload. And if you want to feel better, we can put a return here, but it won't really get there because this reload is going to trigger the reload, right? So I'm going to relaunch it now after 3 seconds here. So see the time, and then it waited a second to show it, and then it reloads it. So this is what, and I forget who was on with me, but we were saying, look, you could just set something like this to set this every 5 minutes, go reload your script.
And if I use the master control program, I won't need to, it won't be a need to reload it because I'm restarting it anew each time.
Sure. Yeah. Well, if there's not a reason to keep it running all the time, right? Okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
And even if it stays open because I want to look at it, gaze at a GUI window for a while, if I use the master control program, it'll reload it.
It'll relaunch it when you need it, right? Which is another really good point of, depending on your goals, and do you really want that program running all the time? Or is it just when I want it, I hit a button and bam, it launches it, and now I have it, and then I can close it. And I don't have 80 programs running all the time.
I like your master control program, and I think that might solve the problem. Cool. And I do want the GUI window with its information to stay open as long as I want, but when I run the program again, I don't need it. I will be rerunning the program only when I'm on a new task.
As long as you have single instance force, it'll completely rerun the script for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this might solve it. I'll give it a try. I'll let you know.
And then Colo had a quick question about transparencies and GUIs. Hellbent, if you can.
Okay.
I don't work with those much.
Sure. What's the question?
I don't know if you want to unmute yourself, Colo, or you said, hey, I got a question about transparency or images and GUIs. Yes, you can screen share, sure. Keep it tame.
Yeah. Yeah, I was meaning to ask you about that, Joe. How do you deal with that?
I hope.
Yeah.
I can always go back and, obfuscate inside YouTube later.
Okay, hold on, let me see. Color, last found. Okay. Now what you're probably saying is you want to have, okay, well, I'll wait for you to answer your question. You won't ask your question.
Yeah, Colo, what are you trying to do? Transparency of images in GUIs. Yeah, what was the question? May I, both
images are transparent. Okay.
But what's your goal? What are you?
So probably, okay, so I assume that you want them on top of each other, but it's not showing the transparency. Okay, so the first thing I would say is, this probably won't work, but I'd say put background trans as an option in both of the pictures. I don't think it's going to work, and if that doesn't work, I'll show you another way to do it. Yes, no?
Yeah, I don't understand. Are we supposed to be seeing things?
Yeah, we don't see anything on our screen. We don't see anything.
Maybe you shared just your desktop and we don't see. Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, we see
okay. So now what we can do is, let me share my screen. What you're going to want for this is to have the GDI Plus library. So if you don't have that, you're going to need that to do what I'm going to show you. But if you don't mind, let me share my screen.
Colo, do you have the GDI library?
Just well, okay, I can walk him through. I can probably walk him through if I get. No, it's probably better if he sees because I have tools that.
Yeah, how about why don't you go ahead and share what you were, and then we can adapt, specifically for him.
All right, so where's share screen? Okay. Okay, you can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so what I'm going to need to do is, do you mind pasting your GUI code into the chat? So that way I can just grab that.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm just curious, Color, are you making a game? Is that what your goal is, or what you doing?
Okay. This thing's bothering me. I have that darn bar. It's in my way.
Yeah, I understand. The Zoom. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, so here I have my two images. Let me pick some bigger images so that way.
I think those are fine.
Well, the idea is that the one of them the first one has to be overlapped. So
we'll just use the second one twice.
Yeah. Okay, whatever. So the idea is that you want them both to go together. So what you do is you create a bitmap and draw that bitmap on. So there's a few steps to do it. What we're going to do is I have a tool here that has all the GDIP functions. This just makes it easier for me to find the functions that I want. Wow, my computer is really running slow. What do I want? Okay, so I know I have some code I can get from here. So the code I'm looking for is to create a bitmap and get the graphics from that bitmap. And perhaps set the smoothing. And the bitmap is going to be my display area. All right, so however big you want your window to be, this is how big I'm going to, or however big I want these guys to be in, that's what I'm going to use. So let's say 200 by 200. I'm going to get the graphics from that bitmap, and I'm going to set the smoothing for it. Doesn't really matter for this. There's also, I think with images, you're supposed to use interpolation mode, but I've never bothered to use it, and I've always been satisfied with what I get. Instead of set smoothing, it's set interpolation mode. Next, what we need to do is draw our images onto that bitmap. So we need to get the bitmaps from our images. So bitmap from file.
And how about if you don't know, that's fine. But this is one of the things that's confused me. Of when I think of a bitmap, I think of a file, but
that's pretty much what I think of it too.
Right. Yeah.
When I like, usually if I'm saying bitmap, I mean picture. That's basically what I mean. Just picture.
But in the sense of, and I remember working through with Maestro this years ago, working about XML. And to me, XML was always a file. But with him, I realized it's not a file, it's a structure, you know, and it was like, oh, yeah, my bad.
So I'm going to get the image that I want, and then I'm going to, I have some code handy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go pretty soon here, just FYI.
Okay. File. Okay, anyway, so this is one. So I'm going to get the bitmap from this image here and then get its dimensions if I need it. And then I'm going to do the same for image 2. And then what I'm going to do is, now that I have my, after I've created my bitmap, I'm going to draw both of those things onto it. So where is, so draw image, G. Really got to add a filter to that darn thing. So here, the graphics are the graphics I just created there. The bitmap is this. I'm going to, no, it's this image. So this image, and then I'm going to leave all the source stuff. I'm going to let it size itself. So I'm going to use whatever the source value. All right, and I'm just going to position in here. So assuming I have to know what my image is. So like in this part here, I would want to call up, the functions to get the size of the image, the width and the height. And then I use that as my width and height here. So I'm just going to guess what their sizes are. But let's say 194. 111, and then where do I want? So where in that region that I'm going to be drawing to, where in that region do I want the first image to be? I'll just say 0s and 0. And I'll do the same thing with the second image and draw it where I want it to be. Let's say 111, and how size I want it to be. And now it's all about putting it on the screen. So I can get rid of the second picture control. I only need one picture control. And usually what I'll do is there's a way to use HBitmap in here, but I don't like the results. They're not as good as if you use set image. So that's the way I prefer to do it. So I add this option 0xe, and now I can do set image. I need the handle to this control. Let's see. I don't remember the order for this function, so I gotta type that in. Set image, H1 and HBitmap. So I pass it the handle to the control I want, and now I need to pass it the handle to a bitmap. So I have a bitmap here. What I'm going to need to do now is get the HBitmap from it. Where's my tool? Did I close it? I did.
Are you basically just creating layers? Is that?
Yes. Well, I'm making a composite image. I'm taking two images and combining them into a single image, and then going to draw it.
Okay.
So that way it's because before what he has is he has two controls on top of each other. Those controls don't have transparency. Even if the image does, the controls don't.
Oh, thank you. Okay. That helps.
Right. So this way we're still gonna be using a control, but we're gonna draw both those images together before we put it in. Create H bitmap from bitmap. And here. And now that should work, knock on wood. Oh, called an, oh, wait. Okay, and there we go. So now these two images aren't a good example because they don't have the transparency and everything like that. But the idea is the same. So at the top of my script, this is perhaps where I'll create this stuff here. And then every single time I want to change the image somehow, I have to do this. So let's say and set image. So what I'm missing, there's a step that I'm missing in here where you delete the object. All right, you have to do that kind of cleanup if you're changing it over and over again. I'm not going to look up the function, but you need to delete this guy when you're done with it.
Right. I think I saw he said mind blown Hellbent. So yeah,
sorry,
that is very interesting.
Okay, so yeah, so this now, let's say if I want this guy to be in a different position, it's just so if this is X. No, sorry, that's the width. That's the width. My bad. This is the X. This is the X. And I'm going to X plus equals 50. I think, I don't know. I might have some, I'm doing this live, so. So now if I press number pad one of these images should move over by 50 pixels. And it did, but there's one step obviously that I forgot, and that's to clear the window.
Right. And this is where just getting familiar with that GDI library of what's available. Maybe, yeah, I mean, your tool is awesome. How about, like you said, there's so much there. Maybe, extracting the top 5 or 10 that you use and having them handy somewhere. Because yeah. I'm sure there's some that use it.
What I need to do is I just need to add a filter to this, and it would be so much easier because then I can filter it any way I want. This is why I have that pop-up window class and the editor, so I don't have to actually look up these functions. But anyways, I would want to clear the graphics first. So right here, I clear these graphics. I don't like leaving it on. I don't like leaving it undone. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to find it. I know where it is. Right here, this function right here. Clear the graphics, and it's just going to be G. So I clear, each time I update the image, I just clear those graphics so that way. So now if I hit number pad 1, it'll, why isn't it, wait,
yeah.
wait.
No worries.
Oh, I know what it is. I think it's the set. I know exactly what it is. It's because I'm using this set image, it's kind of weird how it works. It's kind of like, puts an impression on it. So even though I clear the graphics, so it stays on the window, even though I'm clearing the graphics. Right. So what I actually want to do is I want to paint the background, which is, that would be a very simple process of,
I just thought you'd want the 21 inside when you hit the hotkey, that it's just redoing that part as well. But that's all I get you're doing is anyway, you're not recreating the control every time. Okay.
So here, so instead of in this instance, clearing the graphics isn't necessary. Well, actually, you still need to clear the graph. Yeah, you still need to clear the graphics, but you also need to paint the background after that. So now I'm just gonna paint the background to be, let's say, -1, -1, and the width of my image +2, and the height of my image +2. So 200 by 200. So 202, which is just overflowing. And now this should give me a background, then draw the images. And what I would do is change this background color to be the background color of my GUI, of whatever color I want the behinds of it. So now if I hit number pad 1, it paints the background and it moves the image. Let me increase the size of that so it's a little bit bigger.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Sorry, there's a bar that's keeps getting in my way. But okay, so there, and that's the basic idea. Is you just take your 2 images, draw them onto a new image, and then use that new image as the thing that you draw. And any transparencies that you have will come through. When you update the image, clear the graphics again, and then paint the background that you want the background to be painted, and then just redraw your images again. Redraw your images, get a new H-bitmap from the bitmap, from the pointer to the bitmap, and then set your image. Like I said, you can do the H-bitmap, and then just instead of using the set image, which would give you I don't think you would necessarily have the same problem of having to draw it over and over again, but the results aren't as nice. Like the edges are a little bit rougher. Let me see, I don't have chat open. Let me see if you have any questions.
Still working through it?
No, I'm seeing now if there's any questions about what I have about the process. Yeah, it's just, you just take your two images and composite a new image. What you can do with it is you can do some pretty cool things. So like I can create a picture control here, right? And have most of my image. And then let's say I want to have like a break where it's got like a little bit of a gap and then another image. I can composite part of my image on one of it and then the other part of it on the other thing. So you can, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but you know how like comic books have like panels, right? Yeah. So you can have like part of it into one panel and then part of it in another panel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, in my head, I'm thinking layers, right? And suddenly it opens up things that you don't have to think so binary. And the other one, which I put in there, was the, you could, instead of having files, you could base 64 encode the stuff. And not even have
this exact same thing. You can have these as base 64 and then use them as a composite as well. Also, if you have Windows 8 or above, you can use layered windows as children. So you wouldn't even need, you would, if you used instead of using picture controls, if you use layered windows and drew on those layered windows, then those transparencies would go through just fine. Right. Let me see if I have I know I have one. No, not this one. Okay, this one. This is made up of layered windows that are children to a main window. So everything, like you can create a normal GUI and then just you can use, instead of using a picture control, you use a layered window. And I mean, controls are windows. Controls are like, the distinction is just how they're used, but it's basically you just put a child and you can draw as many layers as you want, and their transparencies, any transparencies in the images you use will go through, and you can have as many layers as you want.
Very cool, man.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I'll put this into chat. But here, when I get this, after I get the images, I would ideally call up a couple other functions to get the size of the image, unless I already know it, and then use that to decide how big I want the bitmap to be.
I'll throw that onto a GIST if you want, and then I'll push it out onto the. Anyway, just go ahead and share it. No,
it's not. When I try to paste it in, it's not pasting for some reason.
Yeah, well, it's a lot. I think if you want to send me an email with it, I'll.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll try to keep it preserved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just slow shot this. So here, up to line 29, and then the rest. Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I got another call here coming up soon. I gotta at some point eat. But thank you all, and Hellbent and John too, if you're still there. Thank you guys both for jumping in, and for everyone else.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This was yeah. I mean, the stuff you do, Hellbent, it's so. I find it fascinating because I don't work in it, so to me it's amazing. It's very cool to see, but it's great. To have people with different skills here that can help answer questions, because I'm lost on GUI stuff.
And I'm lost on all the other stuff. So
awesome. Well, thanks everyone. I'll if you come back to this video in the chat, there'll be a link to the code that he wrote there. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.